The Gates 707, the world's greatest crimper ever made. We just love it.
No way. Wait.
Party time, excellent.
All right, so we're back ready to do our video. I'm Mark.
I'm Rodney.
And we're with Universal Hose and Fittings. Reason we're doing this video is because online, all you really can find is somebody that tells you how to calibrate a 707 crimper. We're going to show you all the different things in the real world on what type of problems you will run across with this crimper.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
We classified it as the world's greatest crimper. What do you think about that, Rodney?
Well, it is one of the greatest crimpers. I mean, it will crimp any fitting that you can use on it, as long as you have the proper dies to do it.
But it's got a lot of problems.
Oh yeah, it's got a lot of problems that go wrong with it during age and use, depending on what you're doing.
Well, this crimper is kind of like some of our employees. They're the greatest employees, but they got issues.
Like me?
Yeah. So what kind of problems we got to deal with here?
Well, the first thing is we have the digital readout on the top. It tends to go bad, especially if you get power surges every once in a while, or just age.
Well, how do you know it's going bad?
It'll just start either fluctuating, or the numbers themselves will start disappearing off of the screen.
Okay. And what is that called?
The digital readout.
Digital readout. Is there any other problem that can cause that to have that problem other than just the digital?
Oh yeah, it would be the power box on the side, which is what you use to adjust the numbers on it. And a lot of times it'll get really loose, and it'll make it so that your numbers just keep going up and down and up and down, and you have no idea what you're actually crimping to, because you're not getting the proper reading.
Well, those are a couple of problems that people see all the time, the fluctuating. And if it bounces around just a little bit, like this crimper is set at 11.96. I mean, if it bounces around plus or minus 10 or 15, it's not the end of the world. You can still crimp your fitting. But we've got some interesting things. If you're expecting a 2-minute video, that's not going to happen here. It takes about 8 to 10 minutes, maybe longer, to go over all these unique things that nobody else on the internet's willing to talk about. So one of the nice things that people find out is that this handle is not a standard item typically with Gates. When you buy a crimper, they just give you this bowl, and this bowl is heavy. And when you put it on there, especially when you're old like me and Rodney, it starts to give, arthritis in your hands. Not only that, but even if you're a young puppy, you'll end up scraping your fingers up here and getting bloody fingers. So we took this and we had somebody weld a handle on there. But if you don't have somebody that has a handle, here's a quick hack. Get yourself a hose clamp, standard worm gear hose clamp, and you can place it. Of course, this is the wrong side. Get a big hose clamp that'll go around, and just get a junk scrap piece of metal and bend it in a vise, and you widget it in there, and that gives you a temporary handle. Now, this crimper was originally designed in the 70s, and it wasn't until recently, 40 years later, that Gates got wise and said, oh, this is a problem. So the new bowls have a little hole drilled in it where you can attach a handle, but they don't give you the handle. You have to buy that separately. So chances are the bowl you have, it's an older crimper, you don't have that. So you're going to have to resort to welding or some fabricating of this, but we can get you the handle. So that's a quick hack for the 707 die bowl. What else do you think we need to bring to people's attention, Rodney? I'm going to remove this bowl here.
The other thing that we need to bring to people's attention is this little switch right here. And a lot of times these go bad, and what happens is it's mounted on the switch box on the side, and when you push the button, it just continues to keep going down and won't stop. So then you end up with a crimp that's too tight, and you've just destroyed what you were doing.
Yeah. And sometimes if you're not careful, if you've got your fingers in the wrong place, this could crush your finger or two.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. Or sometimes I've seen people panic and try to do something. So if your crimper gets in that lockdown position, the best thing to do is just go to your pump and hit the switch or yank the cord out, because it's not going to stop. So that's a good way, to buy this switch instead of the switch box. Now, how much is that switch box, Rodney? He can't remember past yesterday because he's a senior citizen. But online on our website, at the current price when this video was made, it was $626. And we're the cheapest people that offer this switch box. And we'll show you later, because one of the questions people ask about a switch box is, what's inside that switch box? Well, we'll show you later. We'll take the cover off and you'll see what's inside there. Basically, there's no real electrical parts in there. There's mechanical parts. Most of the electrical parts has to do with the digital. So as promised, we were going to show you what's the inside of the 707 switch box. Over to the right is our friend Mr. Bob Ross, who one of his famous phrases is, there's no mistakes, there's just happy accidents. I can promise you, if you get inside here, there's not going to be any happy accidents. You got to be very careful when you go in here. So here are some key items. You saw we talked before about the button that attaches to the switch box. Here is the button that you can buy individually, and the button is attached here with just 3 wires. It's a very easy installation. That's not a problem. Also inside here, we have the micro switch roller arm. Here's the roller ball that touches the actuator switch. This roller arm here has a bracket that connects to the micro switch, which we also offer. If needed, you can buy the steel bracket and roller arm that attaches to the bracket. They're all separate parts, but this part can be very expensive. So as you can see inside the switch box, there's just a few wires and you can replace parts, but we do not suggest you get in there and tweak anything. Just leave it like it is, and you can replace these individual parts instead of the whole switch box if you feel confident with that.
This guy is good.
What about the dies, and what is this, Rodney?
Well, that's supposed to be your die magnet that you would take this off with. But as you can see, there's not really any room in there for that.
Sometimes you got to go cockeyed.
You end up hurting yourself trying to get it in and out, and picking it up off of there.
And sometimes that magnet will drop the die. It falls on the concrete floor, and the next thing you know, it breaks. What will break is this piece right here. This is the piece that holds the die fingers. We call these the die plates. Most people, when they break this, they have no idea you can buy this part. We sell this part. You can see it at our website. And instead of spending $300 for a new die, you can get these replacement die cages, is what we call them, with the screws that go in to the dies for somewhere around $120, I think it is. So the dies, though, a lot of times you see, just in this short amount of time, we've gotten grease on our hands. If you're making hoses, you're going to get greasy, especially if you're using gates. What's this?
That's the die grease that you are supposed to put on the fingers on your die to make sure that you get proper lubrication so that the bowl doesn't actually stick when you push it down. I've seen people, or had people even call me, that want to know why their die bowl's stuck, and it's because they did not put any of this die grease on there.
What do you mean a die bowl gets stuck? I mean, you put it on there. How's it get stuck on there?
It's just metal to metal, and you've got nothing make it so that it'll come back off.
You got any recollection how you get it loose when it gets stuck?
Unfortunately, you got to use a hammer on it and and sort of tap it and try to.
So the best thing is if your die bowl gets stuck, one, that's a signal that you're not greasing the dies. So if it gets stuck, just take this piece out, set it on your workbench, and get a hammer. Start small, just tap it a couple of times, and usually that'll break it.
Yes.
Break it loose. It doesn't really harm the bowl to get stuck, but if you don't lubricate the dies, eventually what happens to these bowls? It happens in rare instances, but what happens?
They will crack.
They will crack. And when it cracks, it's like somebody just shot off a shotgun, and you'll know.
Oh, yeah.
It'll scare you, and if you're a senior citizen that wears diapers, believe me, you're going to have to make a trip to the bathroom because it'll scare the heck out of you. But you can avoid all that by putting grease on there. One of the other problems with the crimper, and it's not just this crimper, it's a lot of crimpers. Sometimes people buy these crimpers and put them in a barn or a shop up in Wisconsin or Michigan or Minnesota where it's cold. And we get a phone call that says, my electric pump doesn't have power or it trips the breaker. What's the story there with cold weather and electric pump?
Well, that would be caused by the fluid in the pumps. These pumps are really not made to work under like 50 degrees. So a lot of times what we'll recommend is that you drain the fluid out of this, which is a standard hydraulic fluid, and you replace it with automatic transmission fluid, or ATF as a lot of people call it.
I don't think the Gates man's going to say that.
Well, that's something they don't want you to know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, it's best to have the fluid that's in there, but in the real world, these things are not in an environment with 72 degrees.
Right.
So we've learned over the years that, hey, you just have to change the fluid. It's not going to cause any problems to your pump. There's no sense in the summer to switch it back to regular hydraulic fluid. It's just no reason for that. What about sometimes they say the breaker is tripping. I bought this crimper and it's tripping the breaker. What happens most of the time when breakers trip on a 707? You're looking at me like you tell people this all the time on the phone. So the extension cord.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We get people all the time that will mount their machine over here on the bench and their breaker is on the other side of the building. And what happens is it pulls too much current and it will blow the breaker. So it's best to have your machine as close to the breaker box as you can get it. And don't ever try to use an extension cord. An extension cord just will not work.
Eventually, if you notice what's called crimper shuddering, or what is that? Well, if you push the button and you come down, this ram will go back up. And as you know, underneath this cover is these springs that pull this up. Well, sometimes the ram doesn't want to go back up quickly. It'll start to shudder a little bit, or it may get stuck. That's an indication that you need a seal kit,
Yes.
or you may need to replace the piston in there, which at the end of this video, we have a complete section of all the different parts that we sell. All right, so we're starting to run out of things to talk to here, but there's one thing that we noticed is this actuator rod, which we'll show you a close-up shortly. But the actuator rod is the rod that comes down and tells the micro switch on the switch box to stop. So what happens with this this rod is over a period of years, if it's in the same position, it wears a spot on it and it becomes flat. And you'll start to notice your crimper settings are correct or incorrect.
Incorrect.
Yeah, so the crimper settings are incorrect. If you're one that even checks crimper settings, make sure you have a caliper, because this crimper does get out of calibration and you do have to make adjustments. Sometimes all you have to do is adjust this rod here. So this actuator rod, one of the problems is it's got a threaded bolt that holds it there with a nut. And over a period of time, the vibration of the crimper, sometimes that nut comes loose. The rod starts to turn. You don't even know it's turning. And eventually, it's out of calibration. And unfortunately, some well-meaning employee or someone on your shop will come over here and decide they're going to monkey around with it and get it adjusted. Avoid doing that if possible. You know, if you have to turn this more than one revolution, chances are you're going to screw something up. Right. You're going to throw out your chart completely.
And we do recommend checking the calibration on the machine at least every 6 months to a year, depending on how much you use it, just to make sure that your settings are correct.
Thank you for watching the Mark and Rodney Gate 707 crimper video. All that is left is a short slideshow showing the crimper parts that we sell. If you have any questions, just call Universal Hose and Fittings.